Shabbat Shalom. It's so nice to be with everyone tonight. We celebrate Hanukkah, we celebrate Shabbat. It's really nice to be together. We are going to be lighting Hanukkah candles in just a few moments. So we're going to introduce the Hanukkah candle lighting with a song called Light These Lights. And you're welcome to come up to if you've brought Hanukkah menorah, you're welcome to come up to the bima now and prepare to light.
While we sing Light These Lights.
To put your candles in, because I know that it comes up for some people every year. I'm going to give you what I hope is an easy way to remember. I hope, anyway, because it makes sense. So this is how I remember it, because Hebrew is read from right to left, and the people who created these traditions, that was their orientation, right to left. You would start on this night, the first one, and put in the farthest right, because you're thinking right to left. So you put the first one here, and the second night you would put the next one here. But then, so it goes like that. So you light them, you put them in the Hanukkah going this way, but then you light them going this way because this is the one for the 6th day. This is the one for the 5th day, and so on. So we light the one for the day first, and then we go back. All right, so I'm going to keep my shamash lit while we say the blessings and then light candles.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Hanukkah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim la'avotenu ve'imotenu bayamim ha'hem ba'azman hazeh. I heard something really great about why it's nice to have more than one Chanukiah, and that's because if one of the shamash flames goes out, you still have another shamash to rekindle it with, so that it's like the helpers can help each other.
Continue on page 364 with Hanerot Halalu.
Yaba bim bam bim bam bim bam bim bam bim bam bim bam bim bam. Yaba bim bam bim bam bim bam bim bam bim bam bim bam bim bam. Hanerot halalu אנחנו מדליקים על הניסים ועל התשועות ועל המלחמות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה על ידי כהניך הקדושים. יבה בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם. יבה בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם. הנרות הללו אנחנו מדליקים על הניסים ועל התשועות ועל המלחמות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה על ידי כהניך הקדושים. וכל שמונת ימי חנוכה וכל שמונות ימי חנוכה הנרות הללו קודש הם. יבה בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם. יבה בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם. יבה בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם. יבה בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים בם בים.
Ma'od Sur, right on the opposite page.
מעוז ישועתי לך נאה משבח תיכון בתפילתי ושם תודה נזבח לתפילת פרח נזר רב נבח אז אגור ושיר מזמור חנוכת המזבח אז אגור ושיר מזמור חנוכת המזבח. Rock of ages, let our song praise thy saving power. Thou amidst the raging foes wast our sheltering tower. Furious they assailed us, but thine arm availed us, and thy word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. And thy word broke their sword when our own strength failed us.
Now we turn to our Shabbat candle lighting. It's on page 2, and we invite Clean Berman to light candles for us.
Baruch atah Adonai Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'zivanu b'liknei shel Shabbat.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Aline. I imagine it looks really pretty from where you're sitting. Lots of light. We're going to sing Lecha Dodi and welcome in Shabbat, but the melody will be from Hanukkah. Page 20.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, ishmi'anu el hamichad. Adonai echad, Shemo echad, v'shem u'tiferet b'li tefila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor habracha. Merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hit'oreri, hit'oreri, ki ba'orech kumi ori. Uri, uri, shir daveri, kevod Adonai alayich mila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Bo'im shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzara, toch emnei om segula. Bo'im chala, bo'im chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Please take a moment to say hello to someone, introduce yourself to someone you may not have met before, or wish someone Shabbat Shalom. Continue with Psalm 92 on page 22. Psalm 92, this Psalm for Shabbat.
Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat. Tov lehodot Adonai, u'lizamer l'shivayot. Le'agid b'boker chastecha,
Page 26, we continue with Hetzi Kaddish. We finish the candle lighting parts of the service, the first Kabbalat Shabbat. We turn to the rest of the evening service. Make this division with a Hetzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ילמד יברח מילותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ויומכון ובחיי תכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשו בריחו לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירה בעלמה ויאמרו אמן.
Please rise in the body of your spirit as you are able on page 28 for Baruch. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim v'chochma poteach sha'arim v'vidvuna mishana itim machalif et hazmanim v'misader et hakochavim v'mishmerotehem barakia kirsono borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or ma'avir yom u'mevi layla u'mavdil ben yom u'ben layla Adonai tzvaot shemo Achai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim.
Okay. בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם מאוד על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם.
Mi Chamocha is on page 40. And at Hanukkah, take a look at page 40. On the Hanukkah, we like to point out often that the word Maccabee is hidden inside the first line of Mi Chamocha in the first letters of all the words. So Mem in Mi, Cha, the Chaf in Chamocha, the Bet in Be'elim, and the Yud in Adonai. That's Maccabee. And then we usually leave it there. We say, look at that. And the Maccabee is hidden in the Mi Chamocha. And then we wonder, like, what should we do with that? So I was thinking about how the Maccabee being hidden in Mi Chamocha is a little bit, maybe we could think about it as there's a little bit of a redeemer, a little bit of a person who fights for freedom, a little bit of a person who fights for justice, a little bit of a person who fights for the redemption of others and ourselves hidden away in each of us, maybe. So the Maccabee is hidden away inside us. We don't always see that part of us. And on Hanukkah, when we publicize the miracle, when we publicize the holiday by putting candles in our, lighting candles and putting them in our windows, sort of publicizing that we're part of this redemption, this part of this rededication, this part of this, and in this case for the Mi Chamocha, for redeeming others. So this is a poem that comes from Eldon Salavi in his book, This Graceful Heart. He's been here several times and he's a friend of our community. It's called Lamps Within. A lamp glows inside your heart with 8 ways to light it, 8 ways to keep it shining, 8 ways to keep its glow. Light it with your joy, light it with your tears, light it with a song, light it with the works of your hands, light it with this prayer, light it with service, light it with this prayer, light it with hope, light it with praise to God's holy name. Bring the lamp of your soul out into the street, so that all who have forgotten the miracles around us will remember the beauty within, so that all who have forgotten the miracles of old will remember and rejoice. A lamp glows inside your children. Keep it shining. Watch it glow. Light it with your joy. Light it with your tears. Light it with the song. Light it with the work of your hands. Light it with service. Light it with prayer. Light it with praise to God's holy name. And light it with hope. Continue with Mi Chamocha.
Say
And on page 44, we come back to the Shabbat theme, and we remember our covenant to keep Shabbat for all time, a covenant between God and the people of Israel to observe and protect and keep Shabbat. Rise for the tefillah, beginning on page 46, embodying perseverance.
וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, נשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדומה לו, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, נאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. On the top of page 55, we read together. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
We're going to turn ahead to page 264 for Al Hanisim, which is an insert in the prayer, in the blessing of Thanksgiving that we say not only on Hanukkah, but we also say this on Purim, and in some communities they also say it on Yom HaAtzmaut. And after we sing this, we are going to read about the story of Hanukkah, and then we're going to return to the end of the blessing of Thanksgiving.
Together, we thank you for the miracles, for the redemption, for the mighty deeds and saving acts brought about by you, and for the wars which you waged for our ancestors in the days of old at this season. In the days of the Hasmoneans, Mattathias ben Yochanan, the high priest, and his children, when the evil government of Greece rose up against your people Israel to make them forget your Torah and to make them leave the laws of your will, in your great mercy you rose up with them in their time of trouble and fought in their fight, judged their cause just. You delivered the mighty into the hands of the weak, the many into the hands of the few, the unclean into the hands of the pure, the evil into the hands of the righteous, and the arrogant into the hands of those who engage in your Torah. For you make a great and holy name in your world, and for your people Israel, you brought about the great triumph and redemption on that very day. When your children came to the Holy of Holies and emptied your temple and purified your holy place and lit candles in your holy courts and established these 8 days of Hanukkah, grateful to acknowledge and to praise your great name.
We'll return to page 58 for the end of the blessing of Thanksgiving, Be'al Kulam.
Amen.
join together in the prayer for peace on page 61. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai hamavarech et abo Yisrael. Shalom. Continue now with our own silent prayer. Continue now with the prayer for healing, page 253. Take a moment to think about those members of our community, our family, our friends who are in need of healing of body, healing of spirit. And especially on this Shabbat in Hanukkah, we send them light, strength. Tonight we hold in our hearts Ira Altshuler, Noam Ben Aviv, Matthew Berman, Gloria Cadwalder, Lou Salenzi, Daniel Chen, Alice Elias, Ann Fay, Jim Goldman, Piers Haggard, David Mordechai HaKohen, Naum Kaplan, Natalie Klein, Lee Kramer, Edgar Landerman, Hindasara Bat-Hana Pearl, Marlene Marcus, Brian Martino, Eitan Shir Ben Mordechai Valea, Edward Mims, Jim Newman, Joanne Newman, Till Oster, Lev Podorovsky, Adam Schusterman, Jackie Student, Sarah Aviva Bat David Ve'elka, Colleen Wolfson. Other names from Misha Baruch tonight? First on here, yeah.
Sophie Matiash.
Harrison Thomas.
Joe Byrne and Kathy Conley.
We hold them, as well as those whose names we don't know, on the Shabbat in our hearts for healing of body and spirit. Page 253, Misha Baruch for healing. I want to figure out a way, I've been thinking about it, so I could talk to everyone. I've been trying to figure out, well, if I stood over there, would it? Not really, so I'm sorry.
I promise we're listening.
What?
We're listening.
I know, but it feels rude.
Stand up in front of the...
What'd you say? Oh, no, I'm not going to. No. So I just want to spend a few moments talking about the Hanukkah, the lights, and what is the connection of the lights to all of the stories and the history that's connected to Hanukkah. And when we do that, we actually find out that it's not connected to all the history and all the traditions of Hanukkah. It's only really connected to one small part of the story, and that's a legend that appears in the Talmud. And that legend goes at the end of this part, so I'm going to say this part, that we've read about in Al-Hanisim and other places. We read the story of Hanukkah. We know about the Maccabean or the Hasmonean revolt. The Maccabees are only one family. The Hasmoneans are the whole group of people. They revolt against the Hellenizers and the reconsecration of the temple after having gotten it back after the war to reclaim Jewish tradition. That part of the story doesn't have anything to do with the light. When we add on the part that's in the Talmud that says, well, when they got back there was only one little piece of oil, one small cruse of oil, excuse me, that was consecrated. In other words, that was set aside for the purpose of lighting the Ner Tamid lighting, or lighting the menorah. And that one, they lit it, even though there was only a little bit, and it miraculously lasted for 8 days. Now that's the story that comes in the Talmud, but it's not connected to the other part of the story. So that story of the lighting of the lights, so I just sort of skipped a part in my head, but in that whole part about that they lit the candles, or they lit the menorah, right? And that's why we light the menorah. So I skipped that little section. Okay, so the other traditions that have to, or the other parts of the story that we don't know, and we don't talk about that often, are, but in the book of the Maccabees, the holiday was called for by the Maccabees to make up for the 8-day celebration of Sukkot, the 8-day holiday of Sukkot, that they weren't able to celebrate because they were busy fighting Someone today on Facebook said, I was today years old when I heard this story. So I don't know if you're all today years old when you're hearing that story, but that is in the book of Maccabees, that we missed Sukkot, and it was an 8-day festival, very important one, and so 8 days of rededication, right? Hanukkah means rededication. 8 days of rededication after missing that important holiday. Okay, so that's one. Nothing to do with lights, nothing to do with oil, nothing to do with a Hanukkah. And then the Al Hanisim prayer that we just read, a long prayer, talks about miracles, but it doesn't mention the miracle of the oil. It mentions the miracle of God being with us and the miracle of the victory of the weak and the few over the strong and the corrupt. So again, nothing having to do with the Hanukkah lighting lights. So it's interesting to think about whether this whole custom that we have, it's so important, is really just, what is its connection to us and to the tradition? Is it only this one little story in the Talmud? And I'm going to come back to why they probably even put that there. So there's another story. It's in our tradition. We don't talk about it again that often, but it's a rabbinic story, told about what happened to Adam, the first human being, at this time of year. First time ever to see the days getting shorter, and this Adam, this person, got scared. Like, what's happening? Is it going to be shortened and shortened and shortened until finally there's no light at all? I mean, is this the end of the world? If you can only just imagine, how dark it was and how terrifying that would have been. So he imagined that it would get shorter and the days would get shorter and shorter, and eventually the world would end. And he figured that, according to this midrash, that this was a punishment for the disobedience of Adam in the Garden of Eden. So he thought, okay, this is what I'm up against. But then, of course, the days got longer after the winter solstice, and Adam realized that this was just the way of the world. This is what happens. Days get longer, days get shorter. And so the Talmud tells us that Adam instituted an 8-day festival each year to thank God for and to celebrate the increase in light. So that's a nice one. In the winter, we know that cultures throughout history and across time and across geography lights in the winter because it's cold and it's dark and it gets to be gloomy and the world seems gloomy, and it makes sense then to light lights. I just want to connect up that the rabbinic legend, so having said that the pagans were the first people to light lights in the darkness because pagans were the first people to create holidays. And so they said, hey, it's dark, it's gloomy, it's cold, we're going to light lights, and cultures after have picked up this tradition. Okay, going back to the story about the oil now, everyone with me? The rabbis were like, no. We're not going to connect our tradition to a pagan tradition, so we're going to include this legend of the miraculous oil to be sure that when the Jews are lighting lights in the winter when it's cold, that it connects to the events of Hanukkah rather than to some pagan tradition. Everyone understands? It's a very an interesting way to think about it, that it's a way to get us back into Jewish tradition, back into Jewish history, back into a Jewish spirituality, and away from a pagan custom. It's very creative. So I just want to put that out there. But I think there are at least 2 more reasons for us to light Hanukkah candles and lights. And the first reason comes from the laws that teach us how to light a Hanukkah menorah. So at the beginning of services, I explained the order, but there's also rules about where you're supposed to put it. You're supposed to put it in a place where people can see it, where other people can see it, so in a doorway or in a window. And if you go to Israel at this time of year, you'll see you won't see decorations, you'll see these glass boxes, like little aquariums kind of for Chanukiot, they're menorah aquariums. They put it in so that the lights won't blow the candles out. The wind won't blow the candles out. So this is the idea of publicizing the miracle, right? We put it where people can see it. There's also a specific time when we're supposed to do it. When we're supposed to do it at sunset, when people are coming back from wherever they were doing. So if they were out in the market, if they were working, they were coming back home and they would see the lights. So it was particularly at this time, there's a small window of time that you're supposed to light it so that the most people would see it to publicize this miracle and this holiday, and also in a place. So it's a time and a place. So, so I like that idea, to remember that these traditions were born in a time when, well, it was darker than it is today, but it was also darker than it is today. It was also harder than it is today. It was also more oppression, more hatred. The Jews were feeling, right, more secluded, more alone in the world. And yet they had the courage to light these lights and to publicize the miracle and to be out and proud about being Jewish. And so I'd like to imagine that we can celebrate today, when it's relatively easy to be a Jew, especially in this country, that we can take that pride and that courage that they had, and we can put it into ourselves, and we can imagine how we can be courageous and brave, and we can be out and bold about our Judaism in the world. And I'd like to imagine that even though living as Jews in this world is something that comes easily to all of us, it's not something that we think about very often, just really rarely, and if something terrible happens, which is rare when you think about it in the course of history, that isn't that a miracle? That we can be sort of unself-conscious. That it's a miracle that we can live in this world as Jews openly, that we can put candles in our windows openly, that we can be here together openly in prayer. And it doesn't feel like a miracle, but in the course of history of the Jews, it is a miracle. So happy Hanukkah, Shabbat Shalom, and enjoy the miracles. Enjoy the miracles. Celebrate the miracles. What?
You forgot to take your sukkah down. We didn't get light candles in your sukkah.
Oh, if you forgot to take I don't have any advice for you if you forgot to take your sukkah down.
That's not actually me. I did take the sukkah down.
We will continue now with Aleinu, page 282. Please rise in body or spirit.
Aleinu l'shabeach Adonai.
Is on page 294. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and all those whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, Virgil Abloh, Edward Bolner, Linda Busia, Frank Carl, Lee Elder, Rose Ferraro, Dawn Fitzgerald Swidel, Carolyn Goldberg, Saul Jernell, Susie Lippard, Dale Meeder, Rita Reichlin, Lee Rosenblum, Stephen Sondheim, Janet Wolper, as well as those who died at the season in years past and whose yard site we observe on this Shabbat. Lena Backrack, Selma Weiner Berkman, Herman Block, Irvin Brock, Bernard Kaplan, Clara Cowan, Lawrence Feinert, Betsy Franklin, Simeon Friedberg, Irene First, Ruth Bryn Glazer, Anna Gold, Edward Goldberg, Sonia Goldsmith, Dr. Pearl Rifle Gollin, Charlotte Lang, Bernard Leff, Edward J. Lewis, Ronald Levine, Harry M. Lowenstein, Irene Neft, Celia Madoff, Lisa Morrison, Robert Posner, Joseph S. Rosenblum, Marvin Schwartz, Sadie Suggle, Dimitri Shimkin, Jerry Silverman, Andrea Spears, Sylvia Schiffy Swartz, and Claire Verbit. Other names for yard site for Kaddish.
Belle Dornberg.
No, I'll go back there in a second. I just want to make sure you get here. Okay, yeah.
Caroline Eisenberg.
Eileen McKenzie.
Those who were killed in that terrible shooting in Oxford, Michigan.
Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be for blessing. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, yamad yivrach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayei techol beit Yisrael, hagala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei v'yishab. Leila kol birchata v'shirata, tishbechata v'nechamata, gamiran yamav, hei shlama rabam shmaya, chayim alenu v'al kol Yisrael, imru amen. Oseh shalom v'romav, hu yaseh shalom alenu v'al kol Yisrael, imru. You may be seated. Moment, we'll conclude our service with Shalom Alechem on page 323. I'd like to say thank you to the choir, to Rodef Shalom for beautiful music. It was so lovely. And Luke up there, who makes everything sound good. I mean, you make it sound good, and then he makes everyone be able to hear the good sound. We thank you, Luke, up there. Always thank you to Molly for beautiful work with the choir and also just regular beautiful work that you do all the time. And to Don, thank you. Thank you, Helene, for lighting Shabbat candles. If you brought a Hanukkah and you helped to bring more light into the world, thank you. If you just brought yourself to bring more light into the world, thank you for that too. We're so happy to be with you tonight. It was really nice to have so many people here. After services, we have a little snack for you to take with you, and for that we are immensely grateful to Paige Hoffman, who put it together for us. So be sure to grab a little snack, a little Hanukkah fried stuff. And tomorrow afternoon, the youth groups are going to be meeting, the little children are going to be meeting, and then everyone is invited to come to light the big, giant Polish Hanukkah menorah and have a little snack 6 o'clock tomorrow night. Havdalah and candle lighting. So we'll conclude with Shalom Aleichem, page 323, and then Kiddush and Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshonu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodshu b'yahava v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom tefila lemikrai kodesh, zecher tziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'charta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava u'b'ratzon, hinchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha'shabbat.
I like to do that flourish.
I don't quite have that type of flair. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Shabbat Shalom. Please come up and get a piece of challah, take some treats, and also, if you would, take your prayer books back to the table.
Yes. Sometime next year, I wonderful time going to